You're lying in bed. The lights are off. Maybe there's a soft breeze coming through the window. Maybe you've turned on a little fan for the white noise. Good. Let it hum in the background. Let your body sink into the mattress. You're not in a rush. You're here to drift off slowly, quietly, without effort. Tonight's story might help with that. It's long, boring, a little gross, a little fascinating, and very far away from whatever modern thing might be stressing you out. So close your eyes, and let's go somewhere uncomfortable. You open them again, but you're not in your room anymore. You're lying on a hard, woven mat. Your body is sore. There's the faint scent of burning wood in the air, smoky, earthy, mixed with something sweet? No, that's the scent of wet corn dough cooking on a griddle. Your ears catch the rhythmic slapping sound of someone pressing tortillas by hand. You sit up. The mat beneath you was not designed for comfort. You're inside a small, one-room house made of adobe. It's dim, the only light creeping in through a small opening near the roof. There's no furniture, just a few baskets, clay pots, and tools leaning against the wall. Your clothes are rough, woven from maguey fibers. Not soft, not breathable. They itch. Welcome to the world of the Mexica people, known more widely as the Aztecs. It's the 15th century. You're in the city of Tenochtitlan, a place that will one day become Mexico City, but for now is an island metropolis floating in the middle of a lake, laced with canals, chinampas, man-made farming islands, and temples that scrape the sky. But you don't live in a temple. You're not a priest or a noble. You're just you, dropped into this civilization as an average person. And that's where the problems begin. Before we go any further, take a second to breathe. Inhale, exhale. Let the idea settle in your mind. You are in a world with no steel, no wheels, no animals to ride, and no internet. You don't even have a fork, or soap, or privacy. And this, somehow, is the height of civilization in the region. Tenochtitlan is a wonder of the world. The streets are clean, swept daily. The markets are vast and colorful. There's music and dance and chocolate drinks. But you're about to find out how rough daily life was for a normal person. And why, truly, you wouldn't have lasted a single day. Mornings in Tenochtitlan, you are woken by a flute. Not because someone is serenading you. The flute is a signal, a ritual one, played by a priest or neighbor to mark the start of the day. It is still dark outside. The city wakes early. You stretch if you're brave enough. Your back protests. The mat you slept on is as forgiving as stone. Your first job is simple. Survive. That means food. That means grinding maize. You sit beside the metate, a large stone tool, and begin grinding dried corn with another smaller stone. Back and forth, back and forth. Your arms ache. Your legs cramp. You're already sweating. This process takes over an hour. And it's every morning. Every single morning. There's no coffee, no phone, no shower. Instead, you eat a tortilla, maybe two. Maybe some beans if you're lucky. The tortilla is coarse, earthy, dry unless it's fresh off the comal. You drink a little atole, a warm maize drink, and it coats your mouth like wet chalk. Then it's time for work. A day of labor you don't have a choice. Your job was chosen for you either by family tradition or the neighborhood's needs. Maybe you're a chinampa farmer. That means paddling out into the canals before dawn and tending to rows of floating fields. Your hands are submerged in water all morning, thick with lake muck and reeds. The sun climbs. You sweat through your tunic. Or perhaps you're a stone carrier, moving blocks to build temples or palaces for the nobles. Your feet are bare. The roads are paved, yes, but that doesn't help much when you're carrying rocks. The soles of your feet are already cut from yesterday. There are no wheelbarrows, no carts. You carry everything using ropes across your forehead. And if you pause too long, someone will notice. You could be punished. Everyone is watching, not just your neighbors, the gods. Religion isn't optional. At midday you stop. Not for rest, for ritual. The gods are hungry. You walk past a shrine where blood is still fresh on the stones. You look away quickly, but the scent of iron hangs in the air. That sacrifice was earlier this morning. A heart pulled out, a body thrown down the steps. It's not shocking. It's routine. Religion governs everything. Your crops won't grow if the gods are angry. Your city will flood, or starve, or burn. So even though you're exhausted, you mumble a prayer. You drop some food, precious food, into the fire as an offering. And you keep going. Hygiene or lack thereof, by late afternoon, you're filthy. The sun is unforgiving. You stink. Everyone stinks. The city is clean for the time. There are laws against public filth. People sweep the streets. But the reality of bodies, sweat, labor, and animals, yes, there are turkeys and dogs, means the air is always rich. You can bathe in the canals. Many do. Soap, if you have it, is made from plants and ashes. It scratches more than it cleans. Toilets? If you're lucky, a corner pit. If you're not, the lake. Or the street. And you still have to go home and grind more maize for dinner. Family life and survival at home? Your partner or children help prepare the evening meal. It's more tortillas. Maybe squash. Maybe chili peppers. Meat? Rare. Eggs? Rare. Most of your protein comes from beans and insects. Yes, insects. Crickets. Grubs. Ant eggs. They're crunchy. They taste like protein. You eat on the ground. No plates. Just leaves or your hands. You're surrounded by family. That's good. But there's no privacy. You sleep in the same space. You share everything. Illness spreads quickly. And there's no doctor, just herbalists and prayers. Night comes with no comfort. The sun sets. The city quiets. Fires are lit. You hear drums in the distance, temple rituals. Chanting. You lie back on your mat. Your bones hurt. You have mosquito bites. The air is sticky. You might fall asleep fast. You might not. Because tomorrow is the same. Backbreaking work. Fear of the gods. Grinding. Heat. Smells. Pain. And that's if everything goes well. If there's no flood. No war. No famine. This was a great civilization, beautiful, powerful, ahead of its time. But you'd barely last a day. You wake up again. You wish you hadn't. Your back is stiff. You dreamed of soft pillows and clean sheets. But instead you have a bundle of woven fibers under your head that smells faintly of old corn and mildew. Your stomach growls. That's normal. Hunger is a regular companion in this life. Food isn't scarce exactly, but it's repetitive. There are no snacks, no variety, just survival. Let's talk about food. The Aztec diet. Tasty, but terrifyingly repetitive. You begin the morning the same way. Grinding maize. Your arms are already tired, but there's no getting around it. Corn is the backbone of your entire existence. Maize for breakfast, maize for lunch, maize for dinner, tortillas, tamales, atoll. That's your menu, day after day. It's not bland, not exactly. You might add chili, or squeeze some lime if it's available. If you're lucky, you have avocado. If you're very lucky, cacao. But you can't drink hot chocolate the way you think of it. The Aztecs don't sweeten it. It's bitter, spiced, and thick. More medicine than dessert. You don't miss sugar. You've never had it. You miss meat. There's turkey if you're rich. Duck, dog. But for commoners, most meat comes from insects. You get creative. Grilled grasshoppers. Worms stuffed in tortillas. Ants cooked on hot stones. They're crunchy, nutty, slightly metallic. And you try not to think too hard about it. Fish? Only if you live near the lake and can trade for it. Otherwise, your protein comes from beans. And beans make you gassy. But so does maize. Everyone smells like old soup. Cooking and kitchens, there is no kitchen. Not like you know it. Food is cooked over open flame inside the house. That means smoke. Everything smells like smoke. Your clothes, your hair, your food. Your eyes burn sometimes, just sitting near the fire. You sit on the floor, rolling tortillas, patting them flat by hand. Every meal is made from scratch. There is no refrigerator, no leftovers, and nothing is fast. Let's talk about sickness. You don't know the word germ. You don't understand infection. If someone gets sick, it's probably because they offended a god, or were cursed, or saw something they shouldn't have. You've probably had smallpox by now if you're still alive. Maybe it killed your cousin. Maybe it left you scarred. Maybe you remember when it first arrived, brought by strange visitors from across the sea. Pale men with armor and animals with hooves. But right now we're before all that. You're still in a city untouched by Europeans. Still, people die easily. A cold? Could be fatal. A stomach ache? Could be a spirit inside you. A cough? A sign of imbalance. There are no pills. No antibiotics. You go to a ticital, a healer. They check your pulse, your sweat, your dreams. They burn incense. They wave feathers. They give you plants to chew. Some help. Others don't. One common remedy? Blow chilly smoke into your nose. Clears your sinuses, supposedly. Also makes you cry. Sometimes the treatment is worse than the sickness. Childbirth. A warrior's death if you're a woman. Giving birth is your battle. No hospitals. No sterile gloves. No epidural. Just you on a mat with midwives around you, chanting prayers to the goddess of childbirth. If you die in childbirth, which many do, you are honored like a fallen soldier. Your soul is said to join the sun, just like the warriors who die in combat. But that's cold comfort. You hear your neighbor screaming. She's in labor. The entire street listens. No one comments. It's a daily risk. You feel helpless. You should. Superstition and daily fear. Your entire world is ruled by forces you can't see. Every illness, every accident, every crop failure, it all means something. You're not allowed to whistle at night. Spirits might hear you. You shouldn't sleep with your feet pointing west. It invites death. You can't eat eggs late in the day. That's for birds, not humans. Dreams are interpreted like weather forecasts. A snake in your dream might mean betrayal. A falling tree could mean a death in the family. You take dreams very seriously. If a child is born with a deformity, it might be a divine punishment. Sometimes they're left to die. Sometimes worse. You don't talk about it. You live with quiet, constant fear of angering the gods, of breaking taboos, of being chosen for sacrifice. But hey, at least you're not a captive. Yet, religion is everything. Literally. You're not religious the way modern people think of religion. Your beliefs are everywhere. The sun needs blood to rise. The rain needs offerings to fall. Your life, a debt to be paid. Temples dominate the skyline. You see the steps. You know what happens up there. Hearts cut out. Blood spilled. Bodies tossed. Sometimes you see the priests after a ceremony. Their clothes are black with dried blood. Their hair is matted. They smell like death. They don't speak. You don't want them to, but you still offer prayers. Still burn incense. Still bow your head. Because if you don't, maybe next time it's your heart that gets taken. You think about that at night. As you try to sleep, the chanting echoes in your ears. The scent of copal and blood drifts through the window. You close your eyes and hope you wake up again. You wake up to crying. Not your own. A child's. In the one-room house you share with your family, there's no such thing as silence. Children don't have bedrooms. They barely have personal space. You sit up, rubbing your eyes with hands that feel like stone. Another day begins. Another lesson in how much children in this world are not coddled. You glance at the little boy, maybe 6 years old, struggling to tie the coarse belt on his tunic. He's already expected to behave like a man. There's no time for innocence in Tenochtitlan. Childhood is short. Childhood is hard. And you start to remember your own childhood. Growing up Mexico. The end of innocence. Your earliest memory is probably of work. Not play. Not stories. Not naps. You might have been 3 years old the first time your parents handed you a task. Maybe you gathered firewood. Maybe you swept the floor. Maybe you hauled water from the canal in a gourd nearly as big as your body. Children aren't expected to be quiet. They're expected to be useful. Boys are trained for labor or war. Girls are trained for weaving, grinding, cooking, and mothering. There is no, what do you want to be when you grow up? You already know. The state has decided. Discipline starts early. If you disobey your parents, they have options. If you talk back, they can force you to inhale chili smoke until your nose bleeds. If you're lazy, they might hold you over burning chili peppers as punishment. It's not abuse. Not in this world. This love in a twisted way. They're preparing you for the real world, where mistakes can cost your life. By the time you're 10, you've learned that fear is part of life. And you've learned to smile through it. School for all. But not the way you think education is mandatory. For everyone. Yes, even commoners. Boys and girls go to school, but in very different ways. If you're a boy from a noble family, you go to the Kalmakak, a school for priests, warriors, and leaders. You learn to read the sacred books, memorize chants, fast, and endure pain. If you're a commoner boy, you go to the Telpakali. There, education is more about obedience and physical training. You learn how to carry heavy loads, how to march, how to build, how to fight. You are beaten regularly, not because you misbehaved, just to keep you humble. Girls are usually taught at home. They learn to cook, grind, weave. They're told to be silent, modest, invisible. You've memorized dozens of proverbs by now. Things like, do not talk much, or your words will bring shame. Obey, and you will be honored. Pain is your teacher, and maybe in a strange way you believe it. Fun exists, but barely do you get to play. Sometimes, briefly, you might kick around a rubber ball carved from tree sap. You might wrestle with other kids. Maybe you'll dance during a festival. But the older you get, the more fun is replaced by ritual, by expectations. You practice carrying bundles of wood. You help in the fields. You shadow your parents. You're not a child. You're a small adult. Rites of passage at around 15, you're expected to enter adult society. If you're a boy, this means training with warriors. Maybe going on your first campaign. Your success in battle will define your worth. Capturing prisoners for sacrifice is the highest honor. Killing them is less impressive. Bringing them back alive is the goal. If you're a girl, your worth is tied to your weaving, your obedience, your potential to bear strong children. You may be married off by 16, maybe younger. The ceremony is short, sacred, and arranged. You don't choose your partner. Your family does. The gods approve. Love isn't part of the deal. Family life is hard, and always watched. Your family eats together, works together, sleeps together. But this is not a private unit. You are part of a neighborhood, a kalpuli, a clan. Everyone knows your name. Everyone knows your mistakes. If you're caught being lazy, your family is shamed. If you break the rules, everyone pays. Social pressure is enormous. And the gods are always watching. There are festivals for every phase of life. For planting, for birth, for death. You dance, you fast, you bleed. One rite of passage, piercing your ear with a thorn to spill a few drops of blood. For the gods, to prove your loyalty. It hurts, but it's better than the alternative. The looming shadow of war as you grow older. One thing becomes clear. Your life is not yours. It belongs to the city, to the gods, to the empire. You hear drums in the distance again. Not ritual this time. Training. Your neighbor's son just returned from campaign. He brought back 2 captives. He's being celebrated. He's 17. You feel pressure. You need to prove yourself too. You don't want to kill, but you don't want to be a disgrace. You pray quietly that the gods will overlook your fear. Sleep is no escape. You lie down again. The fire has burned low. Your body aches from labor, from training, from fear. Outside, the night is thick with sounds. Crickets. Water lapping at the canals. Distant flutes. You try to dream of soft things. You can't. You dream of duty, of gods, of sharp obsidian blades. You dream of being watched. Because in this world, you always are. You try not to look, but everyone else is looking. You're in the city square, Tenochtitlan's heart, and the crowd is gathered around the base of the Templo Mayor. The steps are painted red with old blood, worn smooth by feet and bodies. You tell yourself not to stare, but your eyes are drawn upward. There, at the top, high against the sky, are the priests, and between them a man. He's alive. Not for long. You swallow. Your mouth is dry. Your heartbeat slows, not from fear, but from something deeper, something ancient, something you've been taught to feel. Respect. terror, sacred awe. Because this is not a murder. This is a gift. Why sacrifice? It's not cruelty. Not to you. Not to your people. It's debt. Cosmic debt. The sun moves across the sky only because the gods gave their blood to set it in motion. The moon waxes and wanes because a god burned himself alive. Rain falls only when the rain god is pleased, and he's pleased by offerings. Everything that exists because of pain, so it must be fed with pain. You were taught this from birth, in school, at home, in prayers, in stories whispered by the old woman who sold you tamales at the market. The gods gave everything, so you give back, with flowers, with food, with blood, especially blood. The captive's fate. The man at the top of the steps was not born in this city. He's a captive, taken in war. He was fed well in the weeks leading up to today, dressed in fine feathers, treated almost like a guest. He knew his role, knew it from the moment he was captured. And now, he's on the stone. The priest raises the obsidian blade. His jagged black, sharper than steel, can slice through skin like fruit. You don't look away this time. There's a scream, short, high, then silence. The priest lifts the still beating heart to the sky. Blood pours down the steps. You feel it in your chest like an echo. The crowd doesn't cheer. They bow their heads, murmur prayers, and then life goes on. The psychology of terror. You've seen this before. You'll see it again. It never becomes normal, but it becomes part of you. You think maybe this is how obedience is built. Not just from love, not just from duty, but from witnessing the absolute power of belief. Sacrifice keeps the calendar moving, keeps the city safe, keeps the gods away from wrath. And maybe, just maybe, it keeps the people under control. You don't speak of this out loud, but everyone thinks it. Voluntary sacrifice. The chosen few. Not all sacrifices are prisoners. Some are volunteers, priests, dancers, virgins raised from birth to be offerings. Sometimes, a man is chosen to represent a god for a whole year. He is worshipped, bathed, fed the best food, given women, treated like a living deity. And then, at the end of the year, he climbs the stairs, smiles, and dies. He doesn't scream. He offers his body willingly. People cry, not because he dies, but because he dies so well. You wonder if you could do the same. You hope you never find out. Rituals for every occasion. Not all rituals are so dramatic. There are dances with bloodletting. Priests slicing their tongues, ears, or thighs. The blood is caught in bark paper, burned in a fire. The smell is sickly sweet. There are children offered to the rain god, Tlaloc. Their tears are sacred. If they don't cry, the ritual is considered a failure. So they are made to cry. You saw one once. You still hear the sound. You never talk about it. You tell yourself it's necessary. Keeps the droughts away. Keeps the crops growing. Keeps your family alive. But still, you never sleep the same after that. Living in the shadow of death, you see skulls every day. Literal skulls. The Tzimpantli skull rack stands outside the temple. Hundreds of heads, pierced through the side, mounted like trophies. Some still have hair. Some are picked clean. You walk past it like it's a tree, a shop, just part of the street. You no longer flinch. That's what survival looks like. You hear children laugh as they pass it. That's what normal looks like. The gods are pleased. The city thrives. But you can't stop wondering, who decides when it's your turn? Night comes. But the blood doesn't dry. You lie on your mat again. You can still smell the incense. Still see the dark stain on the steps, where the blood clotted. You close your eyes, and see the heart, pulses in your dreams. You wonder if the gods ever sleep. You hope they do, because you need to. You wake to drums. Not soft festival drums. Not temple flutes. These are different, low, rhythmic, deliberate. They pulse through the city like thunder rolling across stone. It's time. The army is marching. You crawl from your mat and step outside, barefoot on the damp earth. People gather in silence. No one is working. No one is grinding maize or weaving cloth. Everyone's eyes are turned toward the great road that leads out of Tenochtitlan, toward distant cities, distant fields, distant enemies. You see them, warriors, dozens, hundreds, and maybe one of them is you. The empire must expand. You live in an empire, a vast, brutal, powerful machine. It is not enough for Tenochtitlan to thrive. It must dominate. There are dozens of cities under Mexica control, Texcoco, Tlacopan, and beyond. Each pays tribute, not taxes, tribute, food, cacao, feathers, gold, people. Every city is a piece on a game board, and the game never stops. Conquest is constant. It feeds the economy, it feeds the priests, it feeds the gods. You've known this your whole life. You've felt it in your bones since childhood. The Mexica way is not peace. It is pressure, always pressing forward. And that means war. Becoming a warrior if you're a boy. This was always your path. You trained young. You learned to march in silence. You practiced with wooden swords, then obsidian blades. You learned how to move in the jungle, how to fight barefoot, how to catch a prisoner alive without killing them. Yes, that's the goal. Not just to win, not just to survive, but to bring captives back to the city to offer them to the gods. Each prisoner you capture earns you rank. Each enemy taken alive proves your worth. If you capture 4, you can become a jaguar warrior. If you capture more, an eagle knight. Your clothing changes. Your house improves. You can marry richer, eat better, be seen. You are no longer a commoner. You are Mexican nobility. Blood is your ladder. The reality of battle, but it's not glorious. Not like the poems say. You march for days. Eat cold tamales and insects. Your feet blister. You sleep in wet grass. You get sick. Then the fight begins. It's not neat. It's not organized. It's chaos. Clubs and spears. Screaming. Mud. Blood. You swing with your macuahuitl, a wooden sword lined with obsidian blades. It doesn't stab. It tears. One hit and flesh peels open. You see bone. You try not to throw up. You've trained for this. You remind yourself. Capture, not kill. You aim for legs, for shoulders, for consciousness. You knock a man down. Tie his hands. Drag him back. He cries. You pretend you don't hear. You look at your hands. They are red. Yours? His? You don't know. You don't sleep that night. You just stare at the stars. The captive's journey, the man you caught, is given water. Food. Not kindness. Just protocol. He's painted, dressed, paraded. You walk beside him through the streets of your city. People cheer. They throw flowers. Some cry. Not for the captive. For you. You are becoming someone. You hear your name whispered. You feel your parents' pride. Your prisoner does not beg. He stares straight ahead. He knows what's coming. He will be honored. And then he will be opened. And you? You will be celebrated. Glory and power in a fragile world, but it's never enough. The gods demand more. There is always another war. Another tribute. Another city that needs to be reminded of Mexica's strength. You're tired. Your body is scarred. But you keep going. Because stopping means shame. Stopping means poverty. Stopping means being forgotten. And in this world, that is the worst death of all. Women in war, if you are a woman, war touches you too. You prepare food for the soldiers. Weave their clothing. Raise their children. Mourn their deaths. You are told that if you die in childbirth, your soul will go to the same heaven as the warriors. That your screams in labor are like battle cries. But you don't feel like a hero. You feel pain, fear, and sometimes pride. But mostly exhaustion. The cost of empire. You visit the marketplace and see the bounty of conquest. Bright feathers, gold, shells from distant oceans, vanilla, cacao. You know where it came from. Cities burned, people taken, fields trampled. But now it's here, in your hands, on your tongue. You tell yourself it's justified, that this is civilization, that the Mexica are chosen by the gods. But sometimes, late at night, you wonder how long it can last. The world feels heavy. The drums never stop. And the gods? The gods are always hungry. The air feels wrong. You can't explain it. The sky is clear. The lake is calm. But something is off. The birds aren't singing. The wind carries a strange chill. Even though the sun is bright. People walk slower. Speak softer. Priests look nervous. You've lived in Tenochtitlan your whole life. You know its rhythms, its heartbeats. And today it's skipping. A bad omen is coming. Everyone feels it. The role of omens in Aztec life in your world. Nothing happens by chance. Not illness. Not dreams. And especially not the weather. Every strange event is a message. A comet in the sky. A sign of death. A child born with webbed fingers. The gods are displeased. A temple struck by lightning? Someone must be punished. You've seen the priests consult the Tanalpwali, the sacred calendar, to interpret days, decisions, and destinies. You don't start a journey on a bad day. You don't hold a wedding when the stars are misaligned. And now, the signs are piling up. Whispers of fire in the sky a few nights ago. Flames appeared in the sky. Not stars. Not lightning. Fire. Floating, moving like a serpent of light. The elders say it means destruction. The priests won't explain. That silence is louder than screams. Someone claims to have seen a woman wailing in the streets at night, crying for her lost children. Others say they saw a mirror crack by itself in the temple. You laugh nervously, but you don't really think it's funny. Fear travels fast. The market is still open, but it's quieter. People look over their shoulders. No one says it, but everyone feels it. Something is coming. Not a god. Not a drought. Something worse. You hear the word whispered for the first time. Strangers. Foreigners. They came from the east, someone says. Pale skin. Strange clothing. Riding beasts. They don't walk, they sit on animals taller than men. Their bodies are wrapped in metal. They don't speak Nahuatl. They stink of salt. They don't bow to the gods. They bring thunder. Fire that leaps from sticks. And they keep coming. You've been here before. In dreams you remember a story you heard as a child. Of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. Long ago he left this world, sailing east, promising to return one day. Now, some say these strangers are him or his servants. Others say they are demons. Your dreams have been strange, too. You see waves crashing, temples falling. You wake in sweat and you don't know why. You think of the Tzompantli, the rack of skulls. You wonder if one day your head will join them, not as an offering, but as a warning. Moctezuma feels it too. Even the Tilatoni, the emperor himself, looks uncertain. Moctezuma was once a name people said with awe. Now they say it with fear. He consults the stars, burns incense, sends messengers, sends gifts, sends prayers. But nothing stops the strangers. They march closer. City by city they're getting nearer. And they're not alone. Other cities, the ones your empire conquered, the ones who paid tribute in pain and blood, they're helping the strangers. You never thought it would happen. You thought the Mexica were invincible. You try to keep living, you grind your maize. You feed your children. You sweep your street. But the weight in your chest grows heavier. You watch the sun set over the lake and wonder how many more times you'll see it. You go to the temple, burn copal, whisper to the gods. But they don't answer. You wonder if they've already left. The calm before the storm, then quiet. No drums. No news. Just waiting. The streets are tense. The air feels thick. You walk past the lake and see a white bird. Pure white. Drinking near the shore. It looks up at you. Doesn't blink. Doesn't fly away. A bad sign. Or maybe nothing. You don't know anymore. That night you sleep with one eye open. And for the first time you don't dream of gods. You dream of strangers. Their faces are empty. Their eyes are cold. And they keep coming. The end has a smell smoke. That's what you wake to. Not from breakfast fires. Not from incense. Real smoke. Burning wood. Burning cloth. You run outside. You're not alone. People scream. Point. Fall to their knees. On the horizon, the city is on fire. The sky is the same color as ash. You cough. The smoke stings your eyes. The air tastes like charcoal and fear. You don't know if it's morning or afternoon. Time stopped meaning anything once they arrived. The strangers are here. Not gods. Not demons. Just men. And yet, nothing has ever been more terrifying. The day the world changed, you see them first from a rooftop. Metal glinting, animals snorting, faces unreadable. They ride beasts taller than two men, with eyes like fire and hooves that crush stone. They wear metal on their bodies like the gods of old. Their faces are covered. Their language is jagged, fast, foreign. They carry sticks that spit smoke and sound like thunder. You freeze. Your legs forget how to move. Your mind tries to explain what you see. But it can't. No one prepared you for this. The mistake of hospitality. Moctezuma greets them, offers gifts, gold, feathers, cacao. It doesn't work. They take it, and keep coming. You hear they entered the palace as guests. You hear they are now prisoners, or maybe rulers. No one knows. They walk the streets with weapons drawn. They speak with your nobles in broken words and impatient gestures. You try not to make eye contact. You keep your head down. You try to disappear. Life under occupation, everything changes. The market slows. Food becomes scarce. The temple drums go silent. People begin whispering again, but not about omens, about rebellion, about the god's silence. Some say Moctezuma is cursed. Others say he betrayed the city. Some say he's dead already, but no one says it loudly. You feel the city shrinking, like it's breathing shallow. You stop sleeping. You start watching the door. Resistance begins. Then, one night, the screams begin. A group of warriors storms the palace. Fire, stone, blood. You don't see it happen, but you hear it. All night long. By morning, the strangers are gone. But the city is broken, and they'll be back. Siege and starvation, they return with allies. Armies of them. Tribes you conquered. Peoples who remember the tribute. The pain. The fear. They come with vengeance. You remember the stories you were told as a child. If the Mexica fall, the world will end. You always thought they were exaggerating. Now you're not so sure. The city becomes a prison. Tenochtitlan is surrounded. No one gets in. No one gets out. Food disappears. You eat grass, leather, mud. People die in their homes. Quietly, children stop crying. That's worse than when they did. You can no longer see the stars at night. Only smoke. Water turns against you. The canals, the lifeblood of the city, become poison. Corpses float in the water. Disease spreads. You don't have soap, or medicine, or hope. You try to pray, but the temples are burning. You try to fight, but your body is too weak. You just wait. Final days, the strangers breach the walls. You hear screams, but not the kind you're used to. Not ritual, not sacred, just chaos. You see soldiers cutting down civilians, warriors staggering through fire, mothers clutching infants with no idea where to run. You duck into an alley. You press your back against the wall. You hold your breath and try to disappear. You see a man in metal walk past. He doesn't see you. You don't move for hours. When the smoke clears, you emerge. When the noise stops, the city is quiet, unnaturally quiet. Tenochtitlan is gone. Not just buildings, not just markets, but the heart of your world. Burned, broken, dead. The end of a civilization. You hear the name New Spain for the first time. The temples are torn down. Churches rise in their place. Your gods are outlawed. Your language is mocked. They tell you to kneel, to forget. They bring their own god, their own names, their own rules. And slowly, piece by piece, your old world crumbles. But you survive. You wake up on your mat. Again. The house is smaller now. The air heavier. The city unfamiliar. But you're still here. You still grind your maize. Still whisper old prayers under your breath. Even if you say different ones out loud. The gods may be silent, but the memories are not. Tenochtitlan lives in you. You close your eyes and remember the sound of temple flutes. The scent of burning copal. The taste of fresh tortillas made over fire. You remember the festivals, the stories, the songs. And for a moment, Tenochtitlan lives again. Not in stone, but in blood. And in dreams. You live in ruins now. Not rubble, not ash, but ruins in the other sense. Cultural, emotional, invisible to some but not to you. The temples are gone. The gods are gone. The language, the calendar, the rituals all outlawed. But you still remember. And memory is a quiet rebellion. The survivors after the fall, the strangers didn't leave. They stayed. Built over your city. Used its stones to raise their churches. They renamed everything. They made laws in a language you didn't speak. They forced new gods into your homes. New clothes onto your skin. New rules into your heart. But they couldn't erase you. You still grind maize every morning. You still wrap tortillas in cloth to keep them warm. You still whisper Nahuatl to your children. Even if the priests call it pagan. You still dream in the shape of the old world. The language lives your tongue has changed. It had to. You speak the conqueror's language now, sometimes. Enough to survive. To avoid punishment. But Nahuatl is still there. In names. In songs. In curses. In lullabies. Tenochtitlan. Popocatépetl. Quetzalcoatl. No matter what they tell you, the old words don't die. They wait. Hidden rituals, the rituals go underground. You no longer burn copal in public. But in your home? A little smoke in the corner. After dark. When no one's watching. You no longer leave offerings at the temple. But you bury corn under the hearth on the equinox, just in case the old gods are still listening. You cross yourself in the church. But before you do, you mutter an old prayer, just one line under your breath. They think they've changed you. But really, you've changed them. What was lost you remember what the children never saw. The chinampas, the floating gardens, green and endless. The temple drums echoing into the mountains. The scent of cooking cacao at the market. The way the city glowed under the full moon. Canals reflecting torchlight like rivers of fire. It's all gone. But you carry it. And sometimes, on quiet nights, you see it again. In your dreams. In your children's eyes. What wasn't lost, they couldn't take your will. They couldn't kill your memory. They couldn't stop time. New generations rise. And though the world looks different, horses on the streets, bells in the towers, the heart of your people still beats. Not the same as before, but not erased. You tell stories to your grandchildren. You say, there was a city on a lake, and it was made of fire, stone, and stars. And they listen. They remember. The myth reborn centuries pass. The conquerors forget. But the world begins to ask again. Who were the Mexica? What was Tenochtitlan? Why did it fall? And slowly the story spreads. Books, statues, murals, songs. Not all are true. Not all are respectful. But even the flawed versions keep the spark alive. The myth grows. And beneath the streets of Mexico City, the stones still whisper. You wake in two worlds now, you lie in bed again. Not on a mat. Not in an adobe house. Maybe it's modern. Maybe you have electric lights and glass windows. Maybe there's a phone beside you. But the dream hasn't left you. You still feel the heat of the sun on your back as you paddle through the canals. You still smell the incense drifting over the temple steps. You still taste the bitter cacao on your tongue. That world is gone. But it's also here. In your bones. In your memory. In the silence between thoughts. When history whispers its name. Tenochtitlan. Final reflections. You wouldn't have lasted a day in the old empire. The heat. The labor. The gods. The fear. The pain. But now that you've seen it, you'll never forget it. You survived the story. You walked in their sandals. You tasted their food. You feared their gods. You heard the drums. And now, it's time to rest. Before you drift off. If you made it this far, maybe you're already asleep. But if you're still here, let your body relax. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts dissolve. Leave a like if this helped you. Comment where you're listening from. I'd love to know. And if you want to keep exploring strange, uncomfortable, fascinating parts of the past, you know where to find me. Good night. Sleep well. And remember, even ruins dream. You're walking through the streets of Tenochtitlan again. But this time, you're not focused on the pain, or the rituals, or the fear. This time, you start to notice the structure. the layers, the silent machine behind it all. Because the empire wasn't just fire and blood. It was also order. Even now, the city moves like a clock, ancient, precise, ruthless. Every person in their place. Every family in a class. Every street with a purpose. You're not just part of a civilization. You're part of a system. Tenochtitlan. A city like no other at its height. Your city held more than 200,000 people. That's more than London or Paris at the same time. It floated in the middle of Lake Texcoco, built on islands, anchored by causeways, laced with canals. There are no horses, no carts. Everything moves on foot or by canoe. And yet, it works. The roads are clean. The markets are organized. The temples are aligned with the stars. You know where to buy beans, where to get obsidian, where the fishmongers set up. You walk past dancers, scribes, merchants shouting prices, children chasing dogs. It's loud. It's alive. It's beautiful. Even if it's terrifying. The pyramid of power, you are not equal to your neighbor. Not in this world. At the top, there's the Teletoni, the emperor. His word is law. He lives in palaces, wears jade, speaks rarely, and commands fear even when he smiles. Below him, the nobility. Priests, judges, generals, landowners, the ones who wear feathers you're not allowed to touch. Then the Massahoulton commoners, farmers, artisans, porters, you. And below that, the Tlacotin indentured servants. Not quite slaves, but close. They can earn freedom, but most don't. At the very bottom, captives. Those who are bound for sacrifice. You know your place. Everyone does. Stepping outside it is not just dangerous. It's impossible. Can you move up? Yes. But only through war. Only by capturing enemies. Only by bathing the temple in someone else's blood. Merchants might rise too, if they're rich enough. If they bribe the right people. But for most, you stay where you were born. And hope the gods don't notice you. Marriage and status marriage is not about love. It's about alliances. Status. Stability. A noble won't marry a commoner, unless they've proven themselves in battle or service. Women are often married by 15. Men by 20. Your spouse is chosen for you. Not by force, but by pressure. You do what your family expects. Because in this world, family is survival. The role of women, you might think women have no power here. But that's not quite true. They don't fight wars. They don't lead temples. But they run households. They trade in markets. They manage finances. A skilled woman, especially a weaver or healer, can gain respect. Even wealth. Some become midwives, herbalists, advisors. Their voices are rarely loud. But they matter. And without them, the city would fall apart. Markets and money. You walk through Tlatelolco, the great market district. It's enormous. Thousands of stalls. Tens of thousands of people. You see cacao beans being traded like coins. Cloaks priced in beads. Salt, honey, chilies, jade. Merchants wear different capes to show what they sell. Judges walk among the crowd, settling disputes on the spot. You feel safer here than anywhere else. Because this is order. And in a world ruled by chaos, that means everything. Crime and punishment. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't cheat in the market. Not because it's wrong, though it is, but because the punishment is public. Stealing a cloak? Your head might end up on display. Lying to an official? You could be beaten. If you're a noble who abuses your power? Death. The laws are harsh, but clear. Everyone knows the rules, and breaking them is a choice most don't dare make. Urban design and ritual space. Even the layout of the city reflects its values. Temples at the center. Markets around them, homes in districts tied to family lineage. The roads are straight, the canals precise, the city is clean, literally. Sweepers work day and night, waste is managed, water is channeled, and above it all, the pyramids, the ever-present reminder that you live under gods, not just in belief, in architecture. And yet, it all balances on fear. You realize something. Standing in the street, watching people work, watching children play, watching priests walk silently past. This city works because everyone believes it must, because everyone is afraid of what happens if it doesn't. If the gods are not fed, if the teletony is dishonored, if the market stalls are left empty, if the rituals are not performed, everything could fall apart. So you wake up, work, obey, sleep, and hope the next day comes. Because balance is fragile, one missed sacrifice, one failed harvest, one careless whisper, and the whole system cracks. You feel it sometimes, in the way people rush to festivals, in the way priests glance at the sky, in the way no one talks about the drought. Tenochtitlan is a marvel, a machine, a miracle, but you know it can't last. Nothing this perfect ever does. You don't start your day without the gods. Not here, not now, before maize, before work, before the sunrise even warms your mat. There is prayer, not the kind you whisper alone, not the kind meant only for comfort. This is survival. This is duty. This is fear. Your world is sacred. Everything has a spirit, a soul, a name, the stone you step over, the tree you pass each morning, the wind that lifts your hair. You don't own the world. You borrow it. From the gods. From the ancestors. From the unseen. And if you forget that just once, bad things happen. The calendar that rules your life, there's the Tanalpwali, the sacred 260-day calendar, and the Zayapawali, the solar one with 365 days. You don't schedule events without consulting the day signs. Not marriages, not planting, not war. Your birth date determines your personality, your destiny, your patron god. Some days are blessed, others are cursed. You've memorized their symbols: jaguar, house, wind, reed, flint. They're more than names. They're omens. Gods of everything. You don't just believe in gods. You live with them. There's a god for rain, Tlaloc; for the sun, Tonatiuh; for death, Mictlantecuhtli; for maize, Sentiotl; for childbirth, for war, for wind, for writing, for salt, for every single breath you take. And they're not kind. They are powerful, proud, prone to rage. You don't love them. You respect them. You fear them. Daily offerings. You leave offerings even when you have nothing to spare. A pinch of maize flour. A whisper of smoke. A flower tucked behind a stone. You bleed sometimes. Not much. Just a drop from your earlobe. Or your tongue. It hurts. That's the point. Pain is language. And the gods are always listening. Dreams and visions. You don't dismiss dreams. They're messages. From ancestors. From the dead. From the gods. You saw a snake in your dream? That means danger. You flew like a bird? Maybe you'll rise in status. You drowned? You're cursed. There are dream interpreters. People trained to read these visions like maps. You go to them when you're afraid. And lately, everyone's afraid. Pilgrimage and sacred. Sites. You've walked days to reach a temple. Barefoot. Carrying food. Carrying wounds. You've slept under trees. Fasted for visions. You've climbed 100 stone steps under the noon sun, each one burning your feet. And when you reached the top, breathless and shaking, you offered what little you had. Candle, a feather, prayer, or a drop of blood. And even though the gods never spoke aloud, you felt heard. The temple experience. You remember the first time you saw the inside of a temple. Dark, echoing, cold even in summer. Smoke hung from the ceiling like ghostly fingers. A priest moved slowly through it, his skin streaked with ash and old blood. He didn't look at you. He didn't have to. The gods saw you. You felt it in your spine. You walked out different. You never said why. Children and the gods' children are taught to revere the gods before they can even speak. They're given rituals instead of lullabies, stories instead of toys. They learn that thunder is Tlaloc's voice, that illness is a test, that obedience is life. They don't fear monsters. They fear forgetting to pray. You were one of them. You still are. Silence is sacred too sometimes. You don't need words. You sit beside the canal. Watch the light play on the water. And you feel something watching you back. Not threatening. Not comforting. Just present. You don't need to understand it. You only need to respect it. That's the rule of this world. The gods are not gone even when the strangers came, even when the temples fell. Your gods didn't die. They adapted. They went underground. They hid in dreams, in habits, in recipes, in rhythms. You say a Christian prayer aloud. But inside, you still say the old ones, quietly, in Nahuatl, just in case. This isn't just religion. It's reality. You don't separate the sacred from the daily. Grinding maize is sacred. Bathing in the river is sacred. Tending your grandmother's grave is sacred. There is no spiritual life. There is only life. And it is all sacred. It's early evening. The city is quieter now. Not silent, but softened. Children have gone inside. The market is closing. The sun casts a final glow on the lake. The smoke from evening fires rises slowly, gently, as if not wanting to disturb the light. You walk past a home. Someone is singing inside. Not loudly. Not for performance. Just for themselves. A slow, circular melody. A lullaby, maybe, or a prayer wrapped in rhythm. And suddenly you remember the Mexica weren't only warriors. They were artists. The world was meant to be beautiful. You forget. Sometimes. Because of the blood. The fear. The rituals. But look closer. Every tool is carved. Every garment dyed. Every pot painted. Every word measured. Even suffering is wrapped in poetry. You were taught. In Xochitl, in Cuicatl, the flower, the song. That's what life should be. Beauty and sound. Even if it ends in death. Maybe especially then. Poetry in a warrior's world. You know the names. Nezahualcóyotl. A king. A poet. A philosopher. He wrote of stars, of dreams, of sadness. Of what it means to be human in a world ruled by gods. He ruled. He built. He fought. And he wrote, I, Nezahualcóyotl, ask, do we truly live on earth? Not forever on earth, only a little while here. You whisper it to yourself sometimes. Not because you understand it, but because it understands you. The role of music, drums, flutes, shells, rattles. You hear music every day. In rituals, in weddings, in war. It's not just sound, it's language. Rhythm for the gods. Melody for the ancestors. You dance barefoot on the plaza stones. You feel the beat in your chest. It's not celebration. Not entertainment. It's how you stay alive. Clothing as identity. Your tunic may be plain. But every noble you see wears color. Pattern. Code. Clothing speaks. A jaguar pelt? Warrior. A cloak with turquoise bands? High priest. A skirt embroidered with stars? Daughter of nobility. And jewelry? Jade, shell, obsidian, gold. Each piece a sentence. You wear what your role allows. What your God expects. Even your hair is bound by meaning. You don't just get dressed. You step into a role. Sculpture and symbol. You've seen them. Massive stone figures, half human, half divine. Coatlicue, mother of gods and monsters. Her skirt made of snakes. Her necklace of human hands and hearts. Her face, two serpents meeting where a head should be. Terrifying. Sacred. You can't look at her for too long. But you can't look away. Painted codices. You can't read letters. Not the way the strangers do. But you've seen the codices, books made of bark and skin. Images. Symbols. Stories in color and line. Calendars. Laws. Myths. Maps. Each page a universe. Each stroke a prayer. Before they were burned. Before they were called evil. They were how you remembered. How you passed down everything. Weaving is power. You've watched women weave for hours without speaking. Patterns emerge. Flowers. Stars. Birds. Not just decoration, knowledge. Thread by thread, they preserve stories no one dares say aloud. And when the cloth is done, it speaks. To the gods. To the wearers. To the generations to come. Architecture of the sacred. Even the city is art. Temples aligned to solstices. Doors that echo when you clap. Pyramids that mirror mountains. You see symmetry, color, shadow. You stand at the base of the temple and feel small. That's not an accident. It was built to make you feel that way. To remind you, this is not your world. It is theirs, and they let you live in it. Even silence is a craft sometimes. There is no music, no poetry, no stone, just stillness. The way a woman lays her hands over her child's eyes during a lightning storm. The way an old man runs his fingers over a cracked bowl before he mends it. The way the city exhales after a festival. Silence is not absence. It's reverence. It's understanding. You carry that beauty, too. You've seen horrors, felt hunger, bowed before gods you don't understand. But you've also heard songs so soft they made you cry. You've seen feathers catch the light like fire. You've worn color even when you were told not to. And that, too, is resistance. You are not just a survivor of war and conquest. You are a witness to art. And that art still lives. In the language, in the food, in the way your grandmother moves her hands, in the way your people still sing. You've always known you won't live forever. No one in Tenochtitlan pretends otherwise. Death is not hidden. It walks beside you, dressed in obsidian and feathers. It has a name, many names. It is present in every story, every ritual, every breath. But here's the strange part, you're not afraid of it. Not exactly, because for the Mexica, death is not an end. It's a journey. No single afterlife. You were never taught about heaven or hell. Those are foreign ideas brought later by strangers. In your world, where you go after death depends on how you died. Not who you were, not what you believed, but how you left. The four destinies of the dead one. The sun's path warriors and women who died in childbirth. If you die in battle or in childbirth, the ultimate feminine battle, you don't just leave the world. You join the sun. Warriors become part of the sun's rise. Women become its setting. Your soul travels through the sky for 4 years, then returns to earth as a hummingbird or butterfly. You've seen them near the temple gardens. And now you wonder, who were they, really? 2. Tlalocan, the rain god's paradise. If you die by water, drowning, disease, lightning, you go to Tlalocan. A green, endless paradise. Misty mountains. Eternal spring. Everything wet and soft and alive. No pain. No fear. Just rest. But only if Tlaloc welcomes you. Only if you gave water its due while you were alive. 3. Mictlan, the land of the dead. Most people go here. You will too, probably. It's not punishment. It's not torture. It's just the journey. 9 levels. Each one harder than the last. You travel for 4 years, shedding pieces of your earthly self. Your name, your breath, your shadow. You cross rivers of blood. Climb mountains of knives. Walk through icy winds and dark, silent plains. You're not alone. Your Zoloid Squintly, a sacred hairless dog, is said to guide you, if you were kind to dogs in life. If not, you walk alone. But if you make it to the end, you rest in Mictlan, forever. 4. The infant realm, lost before living. Children who die young don't go to Mictlan. They return to a special garden, watched over by gods. They drink milk from sacred trees. They are not punished. They are reborn. Someday, somewhere, maybe even back into your family. Funeral rites. Your body is not buried right away. It is prepared with care, wrapped in cloth, adorned with paper, given maize for the journey, sometimes cremated, sometimes buried, sometimes placed in a sacred cave, always with offerings, always with song. Even if the living are weeping, you think about your own death not morbidly, just realistically. You wonder, will you die in war? In childbirth? By water? In your sleep? Will someone remember to leave food for your journey? Will anyone sing? Will a dog be waiting for you at the river? The dead are still here. You don't forget them. You build altars. You burn incense. You speak their names aloud. You tell stories, some true, some exaggerated. You wear their clothes. You keep their tools. You cook their favorite meals once a year and leave them on a plate beside the fire. If you don't, they get angry. If you do, they smile. The calendar of the dead. In the Mexica calendar, there are festivals for the dead. Long before the Spaniards. Long before Dia de Muertos. You wore masks, painted skulls, danced in the streets to honor your ancestors, not to fear death, but to invite it, to say, we remember you, we are still yours. You see death everywhere in murals, in jewelry, in the tsampantli, but it's not morbid, it's honest. Your people don't sanitize death. You dress it in flowers. You speak to it like an old friend. You don't rush toward it, but you don't hide from it either. The end is just another door one day. Your eyes will close. You will stop grinding maize. Stop walking to the temple. Stop worrying about the gods. And when that happens, you won't vanish. You'll walk through forests, over rivers, up hills, into wind. And on the other side, someone will be waiting. You might already know the way because every dream you've had, every story you've heard, every rite you've practiced, has been preparing you. The path to death is long, but it is not unfamiliar. And when the time comes, you'll walk it calmly, step by step, like all your ancestors did before you, like all your descendants will do after. And in that way, you never really leave your lying down again. Still, silent, but something is different. You've traveled, without leaving your bed, without opening your eyes, through time, through dust, through smoke and bone, through a city that no longer stands, but never disappeared. You've walked in sandals made of cactus fiber, slept on mats that left your body sore, felt the burn of sun and ritual. You were not a god, not a noble, just someone trying to survive. And somehow, that was enough. What you lived through, you ground the maize until your hands blistered. You watched sacrifices you couldn't unsee. You sang lullabies to gods older than time. You feared drought more than death. You carried stones with your back bent like a question mark. You bathed in canals full of offerings. You raised children you couldn't protect. You wore clothes that told the world your station. You bled a little to protect a lot. And through it all, you kept going. Even when the gods didn't answer. Even when the strangers came. Even when the fire spread and the temples fell. You endured. What you saw flowers painted on walls older than your grandfather's bones. You saw jaguar warriors walk past with faces unreadable. You saw your neighbor's child cry as she stepped into the temple, offering herself with trembling hands. You saw the sun rise through mist and wondered if it would rise again. You saw a world ruled by fear, yes, but also by rhythm, by music, by beauty, by belief. And somehow all of that coexisted. What you lost, the names, the temples, the books, the chants. Erased, they said, burned, replaced. But you know better now. You know the dead don't stay gone. You know stories don't burn completely. You know silence doesn't mean absence. The culture wasn't destroyed. It was buried. And buried things have a way of returning. The echoes around you, if you listen, you still hear them. In the way corn is patted into tortillas on Sunday mornings. In the colors of embroidery on a shawl passed down by grandmothers. In the Nahuatl words still spoken on the streets of cities that grew over cities. In the laughter of children chasing dragonflies in dry fields. Tenochtitlan is not gone. It is in the names, in the seasons, in the prayers no one admits they still say. Even now, in a world filled with wires and satellites, the old gods smile when they are remembered. And you remembered. If you were really there, would you have survived? Not likely. You'd have starved, or burned, or been sacrificed, or broken under the weight of a world so brutal, so sacred, so unrelenting. But for a moment you were there, and maybe that's enough. History isn't just for the waking sometimes. The best way to learn is not in school, not in books, not in museums. Sometimes it's in dreams, in imagination, in quiet hours when the rest of the world is asleep. That's what this was. A dream with roots. And if you're still awake, thank you for staying with me, for walking slowly through the darkness, for letting the past whisper to you, softly, like wind through reeds. If the story helped you rest, leave a like. If it moved you, leave a comment. Tell me where you're listening from, or what part of this journey stayed with you. And if you want to hear more ruins, more empires, more forgotten things, subscribe. The night is long, and history never sleeps. Now let it all go, take a breath. Deeper this time. Let your limbs soften. Let your mind float. Let your eyes close if they aren't already. You are safe. You are here. You are resting. And out there, in a world you've never seen but now somehow know, a city sleeps beneath stone and soil, waiting, still dreaming, just like you.